Before 1803, America was a young nation, huddled along the Atlantic coast. Its western border was the Great Mississippi River. Beyond that river lay a territory of unimaginable size, a place of myth and mystery known as Louisiana. This was not just the state we know today, it was a sprawling expanse of more than 828,000 square miles, stretching from the Gulf of Mexico all the way north to the Canadian border and west to the Rocky Mountains. It was a land of dense forests, wide-open prairies and winding rivers, home to countless Native American tribes who had lived there for centuries, their cultures deeply woven into the landscape itself. This vast territory had changed hands before. It was once a French colonial possession, a key part of their North American empire. But after the 7 Years' War, France had ceded it to Spain in 1762. For decades, it remained under Spanish control. American farmers and traders in the West, in places like Kentucky and Tennessee, depended on the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans to ship their goods to market. They watched nervously as European powers decided the fate of the land and the river that was their lifeline. Control of New Orleans was everything. Without it, the economic future of the American West was uncertain and fragile. Then, in 1800, a secret treaty changed everything once again. Spain, under pressure, returned the Louisiana Territory to France. This news deeply troubled the American president, Thomas Jefferson. France was led by Napoleon Bonaparte, a brilliant and ambitious military leader with grand visions of rebuilding a French empire in North America. Jefferson feared that a powerful French presence on his nation's western border would block American expansion. He worried it could even lead to war. The free passage of American goods through New Orleans, once taken for granted under Spanish rule, was now in serious jeopardy. Jefferson was a man of science and reason, a farmer who dreamed of an empire of liberty. He envisioned a nation of small, independent landowners, and for that, America needed land. He believed that the future of the Republic depended on its ability to expand westward. The sudden re-emergence of France as a powerful neighbor threatened to suffocate that dream before it could truly begin. He knew he had to act, but his options were limited. He decided to try diplomacy first, hoping to secure at least the port of New Orleans for the United States, and in doing so, secure the nation's future. In Washington, President Thomas Jefferson made a calculated move. He dispatched two envoys, James Monroe and Robert R. Livingston, to Paris. Their mission was clear and focused. They were authorized to offer France up to $10 million, a considerable sum at the time, for the purchase of New Orleans and a portion of Florida. The primary goal was to guarantee American access to the Mississippi River, not to acquire an empire. Jefferson and his diplomats had no idea that Napoleon Bonaparte's own grand plans were already crumbling. The world was about to shift in a way that no one in America could have possibly anticipated. Across the Atlantic, Napoleon was facing a series of crushing setbacks. His dream of a new French empire in the Americas was centered on the Caribbean island of Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti. It was a rich sugar colony, but a massive slave rebellion led by Toussaint Louverture had thrown the island into chaos. Napoleon sent a large army to crush the revolt and restore French authority, but his soldiers were decimated, not just by the determined rebels but by yellow fever. Without the wealth generated by Saint-Domingue, the Louisiana Territory was far less valuable to him as a supporting breadbasket. Furthermore, war with Great Britain was once again on the horizon. Napoleon was a pragmatist. He knew that he needed money to fund his military campaigns in Europe. He also knew that the British Navy dominated the seas. In the event of war, the Louisiana Territory would be difficult, if not impossible, to defend from a British invasion. Holding on to a vast, remote wilderness across the ocean seemed like a losing proposition. It was a liability he could not afford. The territory, once a cornerstone of his imperial dream, had now become a strategic and financial burden. And so, when the American diplomats arrived to negotiate for a single city, they were met with a stunning and audacious counteroffer. The French Foreign Minister, Charles Talleyrand, asked a simple question that would change the course of American history. What will you give for the whole of it? Livingston and Monroe were speechless. They had instructions to buy a city, and now they were being offered an entire subcontinent. They had no authority to make such a monumental purchase, but they knew it was an opportunity that might never come again. They had to make a decision, and they had to make it fast. The news of the deal, signed in Paris in April 1803, traveled slowly across the Atlantic. When it finally reached America, the reaction was a mixture of astonishment and excitement. The United States had agreed to pay $15 million, about 3 cents an acre, for the entire Louisiana territory. The nation was about to double in size overnight. For ordinary Americans, especially those living on the frontier, it was a moment of incredible promise. The purchase removed the threat of a powerful foreign neighbor and opened up a seemingly endless expanse of land for settlement, farming, and trade. The dream of westward expansion was no longer just a dream, it was now a tangible reality. However, not everyone celebrated. In New England, many Federalists, a rival political party to Jefferson's, were deeply opposed to the purchase. They argued that the president had overstepped his constitutional authority, as the Constitution made no provision for acquiring foreign territory. They feared that the addition of new western states would dilute the political power and influence of the original eastern states. Some worried that such a vast, untamed territory would be impossible to govern and would ultimately tear the young republic apart. The debate was fierce, but the appeal of the deal was too powerful to resist. For President Jefferson, the purchase presented a personal and political dilemma. As a strict constructionist, he had long argued for a limited federal government, believing it should only exercise powers explicitly granted by the Constitution. Now, he had just completed a transaction that was nowhere mentioned in that document. He briefly considered pushing for a constitutional amendment to authorize the purchase, but he feared Napoleon might change his mind if he waited too long. In the end, he put his practical vision for the country's future ahead of his strict constitutional principles, calling it a guardian act for the nation. The immediate impact of the Louisiana Purchase was profound. In 1804, Jefferson dispatched Meriwether Lewis and William Clark on their famous expedition to explore the newly acquired lands. Their journey to the Pacific Ocean and back was a monumental feat of discovery, mapping the vast territory, documenting its natural resources, and establishing relations with Native American tribes. Their reports fired the imagination of the American people, painting a picture of a land of incredible wealth and opportunity. The purchase set the stage for the great westward migrations of the 19th century, fundamentally reshaping the nation's character and destiny. The Louisiana Purchase was more than just a real estate transaction. It was the pivotal event that defined America's future as a continental nation. The acquisition of this immense territory fueled the 19th century belief in manifest destiny, the idea that the United States was destined to expand across North America. This expansion, however, came at a great cost. The land was not empty. The relentless westward push led to the displacement of countless Native American tribes, forcing them from their ancestral homes through treaties, conflict, and policies of removal. The story of American expansion is inextricably linked to the tragic story of Native American loss. Furthermore, the question of whether slavery would be permitted in the new territories acquired from France became a central and explosive issue in American politics. For decades, Congress struggled to maintain a delicate balance between free and slave states as the nation expanded westward. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 was just one of many attempts to quell the growing sectional tensions. Ultimately, the conflicts over the expansion of slavery into these western lands would become a primary cause of the American Civil War, a brutal conflict that would test whether the nation, now so much larger, could endure. Today, the legacy of the Louisiana Purchase is all around us. The land acquired in 1803 now forms all or part of 15 American states. It is the agricultural heartland of the nation, a region of immense natural resources and home to millions of Americans. The strategic port of New Orleans remains a vital hub for international trade, just as Jefferson foresaw. The purchase ensured that the United States, not a European power, would become the dominant force in North America, setting a course that would eventually lead to its emergence as a global superpower in the 20th century. In the end, the story of the Louisiana Purchase is a powerful reminder of how unforeseen events and bold decisions can shape the course of history. It was a gamble taken by Jefferson, a fire sale conducted by Napoleon, and a moment of stunning opportunity seized by two American diplomats in Paris.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.